sponsors. So this would obviously not help, we wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have our sponsors. So I'd like to thank our College Central network, along with Mountain Sac and Live and Jackie Kennedy Harris and 06 Media. Thank you for, helping in this event. And some of these sponsors that we've had have obviously done it over a period of time and many years. So we appreciate your partnership.
Share a little bit about Paul. Paul, he is the co-founder of the New Leave Training and Development. And not to mention, I am personally biased. They are phenomenal. If your school needs training, your company needs training, you definitely want to reach out to him. Okay, that's my little personal side note on that. He's been responsible for strategy as well as overseeing the Valencia, California office. Paul has been married. Yes, he is married to Gaynor since 1994. Do you see that? Happy, proud, and still loving. That is fantastic. And they have a goal of running a half marathon in every state. Can you imagine that? That is incredible shape to be in. Prior to starting New Leave, Paul served as a regional director for both the Hilton and the Marriott hotels. As a recovering accountant, Paul recently wrote his first book. If you haven't read it, you should check it out. Business Financial Intelligence, a mindset and skill set few people have on all organizational needs, published by the Scholars Gate, originally from England, and you can tell by his awesome accent. Paul and his family love living in the United States. Thank you for being here. We appreciate that. Mainly inspired and by Available Dental. So I'm not sure why that is with the Available Dental, but you may want to share with all of us before you kick us off. Is it our fabulous smiles that we have in America?
It is, yes. We have socialized medicine over there, which I know is a very political subject, but I much prefer the dental offering over here.
Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome to America. America's happy to have you. And with that, Paul, I'd like to turn over the baton to you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate that. And also one of our sponsors and volunteering your time to be a speaker for us. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Rosalinda. And I'm not just saying this to be polite, but I absolutely love the CPA organization. As you know, we've been affiliated with them now for, gosh, I think probably about 10 years. And I first got to know CPA through Ann Steinberg, through the work that we've done over the years with Antelope Valley College. We've actually now served about 23 of the Californian community colleges with professional development. So I really am delighted to be here today. You know, when people say they're delighted to be here, well, in my case, you have no clue. The most difficult country for an English person to emigrate to is America. And the most difficult state is California. I think we're all coming for the sunshine, which we are, but we just don't put that on our visa application. And the most difficult visa is actually the entrepreneur's visa, the E2. The immigration authorities are very suspicious of the entrepreneur's visa. It's right up there with international drug trafficking, you know. And so when we eventually won our E2 visa, you know, seems like a lifetime ago now, we felt like we'd won Willy Wonka's golden ticket. So all that to say, I truly am delighted to be here. Now, if I could make you 3 promises for our short time together this morning, and I'm going to be back with you tomorrow morning as well for some opening thoughts. Promise number 1, you won't be bored. And promise number 2, this is going to be very practical. And then in the time that we've got, promise number 3 as well, this is going to be very participatory. And you know, Rosalinda, I can't think of any time in history, I mean, any time at all in history, when anyone that's originally from England has ever lied to an American. I mean, that whole 1776 thing, that was just a mild misunderstanding. It was actually fake news. It was just fake news, didn't it? I'm just kidding. All right.
I don't know about the fake news, but I just got to say, history happens and we improve from history. So we're happy to be here. See, nothing but love now.
We do. We're doing our citizenship this year. So we're so much looking forward to that. Well, as I was preparing for today, I was thinking to myself, gee, you know, I didn't want to prepare some PowerPoints for you. I thought it'd be wonderful to just share with you a couple of true stories that I think are very relevant to the themes that you're going to be working with over the next couple of days. And the first story, it's a true story I wanted to just share with you, is a story called, catch this, Worth More Than 9 cents, worth more than 9 cents. And I think it's a great reminder, especially through this like tumultuous time that we're going through with change in all aspects of life. Sometimes it's good to remind ourselves about what makes special employees. And I'd like to see if you can see yourself in this story, which I'd love to share with you. Well, to help get our children through college without debt, my wife, Gaynor, who Rosalinda referred to, and I, we actually took on part-time jobs to help pay for college because there was only so much that we could draw from the business from a tax perspective. And I started teaching college on a Monday down at the Fashion Institute for Design and Merchandise in Los Angeles. I just teach there on a Monday normally. And my wife works a couple of hours every day with adults with learning disabilities. And she actually oversees their work rolling silverware at a local restaurant before it opens for business. Now catch this, they get paid just 9 cents per roll, but their contribution, I believe, is priceless. Now, Gaynor has shared countless stories about these very special people. And in turn, their stories have profoundly taught me lessons that we can all relearn for the workplace. You could say kind of principles, really. Now, out of respect for their privacy, I'll just use the first letter of their names as I introduce you to each of them. So first of all, Kay, well, Kay always arrives before they open the doors. He walks to work, come rain or shine. He's very focused. Kay has never been absent from work. He doesn't like idle chatter. And every day he tries to do more than he did yesterday. Now, the world says that he has autism, and my wife says he's incredibly gifted. Can you imagine if every employee thought and behaved like him? Now, A is just so caring. He loves to love and loves being loved. If my wife has to correct him for anything, he apologizes profusely and keeps repeating how much his parents love him. Can you imagine if every employee apologized when they messed up? I wonder how many of the problems we see in the workplace are because people didn't feel as loved by their parents as A does. As parents, we have a noble and honorable responsibility to love on our children. Hurt people often hurt people. And it's not surprising to me to see an increase in workplace violence with a decline in effective marriages and so many broken homes. Now, D is a big ball of fun. He's always joyful, always optimistic, and a real encourager of others. D can sense if the early morning kitchen staff are uptight and angry. He always wants to calm them down and kind of cheer them up. Gosh, could our broken working world need more Ds? He has Down syndrome, but my wife insists that he actually has up syndrome as he lifts everyone up. Now, N is by far the quietest of the group, and she doesn't say much. And N, she really inspects her work like very, very carefully. And she's fixated on quality over quantity, and actually doesn't care if she makes less money for rolling fewer napkins. Well, N believes the most important thing is spotless silverware, not her paycheck. Gosh, imagine if we had more employees like N, whose work standard we can rely upon and whose focus is on the quality of their work rather than the size of their paycheck. And then finally, G. G has been blessed with the talent of leadership, and he rallies the group along. He's very solution-minded. He sees possibilities, not barriers. The average workplace could significantly benefit from leaders of such high character and high competence as G. He thinks about others much more than himself. What a radical idea for a leader, to think of others more than self. Now, if I may, I'd like to boast on my wife, Gaynor, for a few sentences. And when she first started overseeing this group, they were nowhere near as much of a team as they are now. They didn't even speak to each other. My wife told me that every morning she had to remind them of each other's names. They weren't interested in each other. I'd like to humbly suggest that my wife has been the glue that's really bonded them together. And she works alongside them and helps them when necessary. She doesn't talk down to them, but rather she actually looks up to them. And when my wife speaks about these people, her face shines and her eyes get all watery. Imagine if all supervisors cared as much about their direct reports as Gaynor does. You know, I think in conclusion that our normal working world could learn so much from a field trip out to this local restaurant, where a group of 5 individuals labeled as disabled in the eyes of this fallen world work together for about 2 hours every day for 6 days a week before most people are even awake. So next time you unwrap your silverware, think about them. Chances are here in Santa Clarita, your napkin was rolled by special people just like them. And they inspire me to be a better employee, a better leader, a better business owner, a better husband, a better father, and even a better human being generally. And how about you? Now, if I may, before I traverse to a second story that I've been asked to share with you, I'd love to kind of get your thoughts in the chat box about what that story stirred you to think about in the work that you do. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please use the chat. Oh, thanks, Hilba. Hilba, with you being the first person to respond, I'm delighted to say that Rosalinda just messaged me. You've won 2 weeks vacation in Cancun, all expenses paid. And Denise had just messaged me. She said,
You're
apparently,
just causing trouble.
Denise had just messaged me. Denise says, apparently there's a lot of museums and libraries there. I didn't know in Cancun. Thanks, Hilda. Thanks, Denise. Greg's like, this is the last time we invite Paul. Last time we invite Paul. He's so insulting.
Not at all. Not at all.
Rosalinda's like, is there anywhere I can object towards his citizenship application?
I'm sending people where? We don't have that budget.
Hilba's like, she's going to follow up with you on that. Oh, beautiful. Thanks, Nancy B. That's like a rap artist, Nancy B. Ooh. Oh, beautiful. Well, if I may, again, I hope that was of interest to you and have helped to you. Well, if I could just offer you some other hopefully inspiring words, especially with all of the craziness that we've seen in the working world of late. Think about all the workplace violence. And, you know, I really believe we've only got one life on this earth. So why not go for greatness? You know, why not endeavor to be the very best version of yourself? I think we spend so much time at work, and I often have the opinion that really our work can be love made visible. In other words, the way that we lead, the way that we supervise, the way that we partner with others, the way that we work with our co-workers and vendors, etc. And I wrote this little story, which I thought would be of interest. And it really talks to the workplace collegiality. When you've got this very polarizing working world and world in general, that often tries to cause us to sound dramatic, but kind of hate each other rather than love each other. And I put this little story together called Love Thy Co-worker. And I wonder if I could quickly share this with you. So just kind of love thy co-worker. And we'll make sure we get finished up on time for you as well. So again, another true story that 2 weekends ago was actually rather sad for us. And we moved from a house that we'd lived in for nearly 14 years. And our children essentially grew up in that house. And now that they've grown and flown the nest and off the payroll, we have the opportunity to downsize a little. Now, have you noticed how some people talk about having good neighbors and others complain about bad neighbors? Have you also noticed that some people have good co-workers and others complain about bad co-workers? And I've really come to the conclusion that we can actually influence positively or negatively our own environment. And so in effect, by our own example, we can create a situation where we end up having good neighbors or good co-workers through our influence. I'm sure everyone's heard this quote, but as Mahatma Gandhi said famously, be the change you want to see in the world. And I really like that turn of phrase. My wife and I have really endeavored, and we're not perfect, of course, we've really endeavored to be the best neighbors that we can be. The neighborhood that we've loved and are about to leave is such an eclectic mix. And one of the neighbors hosted a leaving party for us literally 2 nights ago. And we were reflecting on the mix of people at that event. They were married couples, single people, some younger, some older, some with children, and some who have grandchildren. Beautifully so, our little neighborhood in Valencia comprises of people from many corners of the globe: South Korea, India, Puerto Rico, Ecuador, and as you know, we're originally from England. Now we have one neighbor from upstate New York, and we also have, catch this, a native Californian. And you know how like totally rare they are. Just as we've all heard the phrase, love thy neighbour, I wonder what kind of working world we'd have if we also focused on loving our co-worker. Yes, work is work, but wouldn't you agree with me? We all spend so much time of our waking hours at work. And so we may as well go out of our way to be the colleagues that we want to see in the world. So what makes a good co-worker? I wholeheartedly believe the attributes of being a good co-worker are actually very similar to being a good neighbour. I wonder if I could share these thoughts with you and hold a mirror up really and just remind us of the principles here. Number one, be friendly. It was wonderful to hear one of our neighbours, Robin, 2 nights ago, mention the first time that she met my wife. And Robin apparently went into the house and told her husband, Mike, about the lovely neighbour who'd offered her a bottle of cold water. Apparently my wife had seen Robin carrying in some boxes and figured that she needed a helping hand or at least some light refreshment. Simply being a friendly face and offering to help where you see a need can go a long way with co-workers. Work is an interdependent activity where people should be helping each other metaphorically carry boxes towards a common goal. The second principle really I think about being a good co-worker is to be compassionate. Now, one of our neighbours, Kevin, when his dog died, we sensed it was like losing a close family member to them, as both he and his wife, Jerry, were absolutely devastated. And we sympathised with them during that time. And on a brighter note, it was wonderful to celebrate a new addition to their family, Sweet Pea, when they got a new dog some months later. Stuff happens. I think that's what the bumper sticker says. Stuff happens. I get some new glasses. And so it's highly likely in the workplace that your co-workers will face challenging times in their personal lives. And being there for people is not only the compassionate thing to do, it's the right thing to do. Thirdly, and finally, I'd like to suggest or remind ourselves really of the principle of having fun in the workplace. Now, Suki and Dave, they moved in across the street with their 2 young boys, Ezekiel and Daniel. And our kids were off at college when they moved in. And so hearing that the boys are both basketball players, we rolled over our basketball net, much to the annoyance of the homeowners association, for them to use. And what made these 2 young South Korean boys feel welcome to the neighborhood and even giggle a little was when this old Englishman challenged them to a one-on-one game fairly regularly. And I've noticed, in summary, how the workplaces of the world seem to function even better when people have fun while doing work. It's not uncommon nowadays to see ping pong tables, cornhole, and other games kind of scattered around the common work areas for all to enjoy. And we can all make time to metaphorically shoot a few hoops now and again. So in summary, I'm really convinced that being a good co-worker is just the same as being a good neighbour. You know, be friendly, be compassionate, and have some fun along the way. Oh, and also be good at what you do. If I may, just for the last couple of minutes, see if we can get you ahead of schedule a little bit. Notice I said schedule there, Denise, not schedule. But completely bilingual. I hope that one comes up in the citizenship test, a few baseball questions and I'll be in. I'd love to get your thoughts in the chat function. What did that story stir you to think about in the work that you do every day? And I'm delighted to say on this one, the first person to respond is going to win 2 weeks full board at my parents' house up in Northern England. And you've got to pay for your own flight. The dollar's quite strong and all the kids in the village will think you've got a really good accent. Greg's like, I'm sure he's on drugs. Paul is, I'm sure he's on drugs. I just love what I do, Greg, honestly. I can honestly say if there wasn't bills to pay, I'd do what we do for nothing, you know. Oh, thanks, Christine. I love that about attitude and character. Yeah, we get to choose our attitude, don't we? I'm a great believer that we really do have free choice and we can choose our response, can't we, to what happens to us and what happens around us. You probably heard it says that attitude can drive our altitude. In other words, how high we go in an organization, how high we go in our relationships with others. Love that reference to character as well, Christina. Character is who you are, whereas competence is what you do. And I've noticed that trust is really character and competence. If you're a person of high character and you're really good at what you do, people tend to trust you. They're more open to your influence. Oh, I love that comment there. It makes your job easier when you get along and are able to bond with your co-workers. Well, thank you so much for that. Oh, I like that from Joshua. You see that? To not treat the workplace as just a place to clock in and out. I'm no great philosopher at all, Joshua. I'm really a recovering accountant, like Rosalinda said, but I'm a great believer that all organizations, catch this, are actually volunteer organizations, because people will choose how much to give of themselves. Unfortunately, sometimes based upon how much they trust the leadership. That's one way of seeing the world, which is where you're responsive to the way others treat you. I'm a great believer you can influence that. But human beings are four-dimensional: the body, the heart, the mind, and the spirit. And I've noticed that the physical, the body, as it were, that's what kind of comes to the workplace. But the other three dimensions, you know, the mind, person's ideas, the heart, which is one's passion for one's work, and you could say the spirit, which is proverbially in the workplace like making a difference. Those three dimensions are kind of volunteered only. And I think one of the saddest things I've noticed as well is that when people quit, but they still come to work. Did you catch that? Some people have quit, but they still come to work. The physical body still comes to work because the benefits are good, it's convenient, etc. I'm just kind of clocking time, but they really don't contribute any ideas. They have no passion for their work, and talk about making a difference. They couldn't give a hoot, you know, from the Latin root, hootai. Denise is like, I didn't know that hoot comes from the Latin root hootai. You're welcome, Denise, you're welcome. Oh, I like that from Julie. I like that from Julie. Workplace, my second family. I like that. My motto, Julie, by the way, on that is, I have a motto which is like my work, love my family. And I really like my work when I was an employee. I've always liked my work, but I really love my family. And I notice, sadly, some people get that the wrong way around. It's like they love their work and they like their family. And sometimes, unfortunately, if we've got problems at home, we sometimes take those into the workplace. If you've got problems at the workplace, we sometimes take it home. You know, this proverbial work-life balance challenge. You know, I remember Rosalinda working with someone that was so balanced. He had a chip on both shoulders. I'll be here all week. Remember to tip your server. Denise is like, you know what? You should give up this training thing and just do stand-up comedy for dad jokes. Well, again, beautiful. I love that, Jennifer. Jennifer says, I'm in a new position and appreciate the reminders and framework for building, maintaining a warm, fun and productive environment. Jennifer, could I offer you a virtual fist bump? But Jennifer, you got to explode it like the cool kids. Look at that. I never did that, Greg, before I moved to America. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, Hilber, is it Heber? I really appreciate those comments there. I'll give you my wife's cell phone, and if you could text her that, I'd really appreciate that. A couple of years ago, Rosalinda, I said to my wife, what would you like for your 25th anniversary? This was 2 years ago. She says a divorce. I said I wasn't thinking about spending that much. Another one. Greg's like, never invite him again. Never invite him again. Oh, beautiful. Well, if I may, I'm going to give you the gift of time, because they'd asked me to go up to 9 o'clock. So we managed to get you slightly ahead of schedule. So if I may, Rosalinda, I'm going to hand back to you. And I am so much looking forward to working with you again tomorrow. I've got another couple of short stories I'm going to share with you tomorrow. So have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. Before I forget to mention it, we've got my colleague, Aaron, speaking with you at 11 o'clock. Make sure you make his session. He's going to be speaking with you about time management. And catch this, Aaron is actually American. Oh. So you don't need to do the closed captions or anything, Rosalinda.
I think we're good.
And his talk will be slightly shorter because he's going to cut out all those unnecessary vowels.
You're great. No, you're great. You're great, Paul. You're great. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I'll bust you.
Paul, you were amazing. Thank you so very much for starting us off. The inspirational stories, the humor. Love to have you back anytime. Like tomorrow, if you're free, we'd love to have you tomorrow.
We will be March 1st through the 3rd, 2023 at the Doubletree Hilton at the Golf Resort in Palm Springs. We look forward to seeing you there. Think about it, save the date, start mentioning it, and plan it on your fiscal budget for next year so that we can see you live and in person.